Good afternoon. My name is Heleen Terwijn. I'm from Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and I'm here today to share with you my project IMC Weekend School, which I founded 15 years ago. And it's a school for extracurricular education for children in underprivileged neighborhoods. I'm a psychologist by training, and I specialized in emotion theory. And in the 1990s, I developed an interest for children in the most challenged neighborhoods in Europe, and I started to do a study in Amsterdam Southeast, big immigrant neighborhood. And I asked the question, how do children actually succeed in keeping up their school motivation, and how do they develop their future perspectives? And to be short about this study, the results were quite alarming. What I basically found was this: children at around age 10 were very positive about their futures. I'm sure you all know children age 10. They're all around the world, they're the same. They have dreams, they have ideas, they want to participate. And in this neighborhood, I saw this youthful enthusiasm really rapidly going down. So I found a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, a lot of anti-school behavior. And I started to reflect on those results, and I thought, these kids are basically already closing off their options before they have been in reach. So I found children who said when they were 13, 14, yeah, I thought I wanted to study, but I now think that it's really boring and it's a sad thing to do. And, you know, they had these really sad stories about their futures. And I started to think about it, and I thought, wouldn't it be great to create a place where children's enthusiasm, children who are 10 years old, where we actually keep that enthusiasm alive. So I was writing my research report, which was pretty depressing, and in the other computer actually I was writing an idea for how to keep the motivation alive, and that would later turn out to be the weekend school. And I was actually more and more drawn towards my computer with the positive plan, and at a certain point in time I thought, if I really believe in this plan, I should actually go back to the neighborhood and set up a school for motivation education. So the idea of the weekend school is actually very simple. You have children from age 10 onwards, and we connect them in the weekend school to motivated people, guest teachers who volunteer in the weekend school from a variety of disciplines, and those people are passionate about their work. And why did I select these people? Why do we select these people? Well, people who are passionate about their work, they are hard to resist, really. If a biologist tells about his fight with a virus, you want to know more, and especially children want to learn more. So we connect motivated children to passionate guest teachers, and we do that, of course, in a program of learning by doing. So poets will come to the weekend school, make poems with the children. Lawyers will not lecture about what they do, but debate with the children. And everybody comes there to actually perform their job with the children. And the key of the weekend school is that for both the children and for the guest teachers, it's really a joy to work together. So the children love to see the worlds of the guest teachers, but the guest teachers are really also interested in the children. They are getting excited when the children are getting excited about their work. So an architect would say, I love to come to the weekend school because the kids have such great ideas. Or a journalist would say, they ask such a great question, I can actually learn from them. And it takes away prejudices, actually, at the side of the guest teachers. For example, I remember a lawyer who said, I actually only meet immigrant children in the courtroom when they've stolen something. And now I see in the weekend school how motivated children are. I never realized that children are so motivated. So the weekend school really is about exploring the world. And in a 3-year program, each weekend the kids come to the weekend school and meet a variety of guest teachers from a variety of fields: medicine, law, journalism, entrepreneurship, poetry, philosophy, all kinds of subject matter in a 3-year program. And this really is for kids of all school levels. So it's not only for the kids who will go to university, it is for everybody. So we also make sure that, for example, if we have a course on medicine, that we don't only present doctors or have doctors present themselves, but there are nurses around, people from the ambulance, people from the laboratory, medical secretaries. So we can actually say to the kids, if a field is of your interest, there's a world in that field only. So they really explore the world. And the question is, of course, how do we keep the kids motivated? And it is something which is really easy with the 10-year-old. If you put a doctor in front of a group of 10-year-olds, they will start to ask questions. But as you all might know, motivating adolescents is quite an art. And in the weekend school, we really take this seriously. And this is where the weekend school staff comes in. This is the staff who is trained by the weekend school, because there is no university preparation or preparation to become a weekend school staff member. So we do that ourselves. And they really make sure that they prepare with the guest teachers their lectures, that they're very interactive, so not like I'm doing today, but really in interactive lectures. They also make sure they're there with the children, the staff, the same staff member is there with the same group of children each weekend, and they make sure that the children relate the programs to themselves, and they encourage them to ask questions, to engage, to do their presentations, to really engage in the program. We obviously also make age-adequate programs, so that means for adolescents giving them more and more responsibilities, that it's just a little bit too difficult, and keep them engaged in wanting to do that. And we discovered that it is very, very important to involve the parents. So parents are, of course, want the best for their children's futures, but they might not immediately understand what a weekend school is good for. So we go to the parents and explain them how well their child is doing in the weekend school. And we actually also invite them in the weekend school to experience it themselves. And we have 2 permanent staff members actually in the weekend school to continuously train the staff, which you might like, Mary, that we really make sure that the people who work in the weekend school can act as professionals. This picture shows that the reach of the weekend school actually is much wider than the guest teachers and the students only. So we have 900 weekend school students each Sunday now, because we have 9 weekend schools now. There are 2,000 volunteer guest teachers per year. We have a staff, we have 50 staff members. We have lots of volunteers. But we also have corporate sponsors. The weekend school, the 9 weekend schools are entirely funded by corporations, by the corporate world. We have over 200 pro bono sponsors. Those are people who give their advices and services for free to the weekend school. We have a lot of politicians involved. They actually come as guest teachers, but then they start to advocate and start to realize, oh, education is not only about obtaining diplomas, it is more, it's about development, it's about exploring the world. So a lot of Dutch politicians actually start to tell the story. And we have researchers involved, because we take research very seriously. We collaborate with universities, and they growingly start to put our themes, the questions that we ask, also on their agendas in university. So it's basically, the weekend school is about connecting students and guest teachers, but there's a whole world behind it. And it's really, really interesting to see, and it's heartwarming to see actually, that everybody who's involved in the weekend school gets infected with the weekend school virus, we say, that they really feel the sparkle. And especially for people in the corporate world, the worlds are so far apart, the kids in the immigrant neighborhoods and the big corporations, that you actually see, if those people come to the other world in the weekend school, they start to realize, oh, we should create apprenticeships for those kids. We can do something in coaching projects. They start to think about it and they want to do something. We are now getting to the weekend school pride, which are the alumni. We have 1,250 alumni now. The oldest are 25 years of age. They started when they were 10 and they're now 25. And they organized themselves in a network which they themselves called Future for Life. I like that title. And what the weekend school does is to provide the basic structure to have the alumni continually engaged in the program. So we have master classes, all kinds of different subjects, like in the weekend school, but it's not each Sunday anymore. They can subscribe when they like to participate. We have all sorts of trainings, among which a training to become a guest teacher in the weekend school. We have support for finding apprenticeships. We have boards of alumni advisors, actually great advisors, both on the local level of the 9 schools as on the national level. So there is a whole framework for alumni activities. And we actually say among the staff, the weekend school basically is the preparation to be able to engage in this network. And this we see growingly happen, especially since the oldest alumni are getting older. And in the picture you can see that the alumni of the weekend school, of course, also are ambassadors. They are the best ambassadors. They can tell their stories by experience. And Her Highness Sheikha Moza did us the honor to visit us a month ago. And these are 2 alumni of the weekend school who tell her, she asked them, of course, what did you learn at the weekend school? They told their stories. The Sheikha's right immediately is Aysenur. And the Sheikha asked her, what did you like most in the weekend school? And Aysenur said, actually, I liked all the subjects. What I really liked was to explore the world. I discovered poetry, I discovered classical music, I discovered so many things. And she said, but what I got most out of it is that I now know that if I'm 60 years old, which is very old, when I'm 60 years old, I want to go to my work, still go to my work with a smile on my face. And that's what the guest teachers in the weekend school taught me, that you should have joy in what you do. And next to Aysenur is Twan Nooit meer, and he told the Sheikha, the weekend school was for me, it was like a family. It was, I discovered like-minded people. I discovered people I hadn't met before. And Twan now engages in a science project. And it's a project, one of the master classes actually. So it's of all the 9 weekend schools, the kids come together in a science project. And Twan says, the good thing is that I don't know these people, but they've all been in the weekend school and we feel like friends. And he said, what I basically get out of it, that we are not ashamed to say that we want to make an impact on the world. We want to make something out of their lives, our lives. And so Twan's story really tells that the alumni network is already beyond the weekend school. They support each other. They don't need a staff anymore. They are really in groups working together. And this picture shows that a circle is round. This is where, growingly, of course, because alumni get older, become guest teachers in the weekend school. In the picture is Sadia. She wants to become a nurse. She's actually studying to become a nurse, and she's teaching younger alumni who are contemplating to become a nurse. And so you see that happening more and more, that they come back to be guest teachers in the weekend school or for the younger alumni. And when I started the weekend school 15 years ago, I had hoped it maybe, but I really hadn't envisioned or thought about it, how important the alumni network would be. And also the effect that the children who have been in the weekend school actually want to give back. So one of the students said, Xayu, she said, actually I'm grateful that I have the chance to be a guest teacher because I learned so many things in the weekend school. I really like it to give back. I like to go to the weekend school and give them what I've gotten myself for so many years. And this is really something that I think it's impressive to realize, that if you treat children well and if you take them seriously, that they pick it up. It's not something that we taught them, it's something they invented themselves, that they want to give back to society. And actually one of my former students, I'm proud of him, Virgil, he's 25 now, and he started a project for mentally retarded youth. And he works with them in his professional life, and he said they need more, so he started a project for doing sports with them and cooking, and he said, you know what I learned at the weekend school? You should say to children what they can do, not what they cannot do, and that's what I want to do with the most difficult group. So basically Virgil started his own weekend school, and now for a different target group. And you really see the spirit that they think it's totally normal to give back to society. The question now is, of course, how are we going to expand? We have 9 IMC weekend schools in the Netherlands, we have a research group, we have an alumni network, and we ask ourselves the question, how are we going to spread the concept? And we're a little bit helped because people come to us and ask, what can we learn from the weekend school? And then basically we answer, be inspired and do the same, because we would like to see more of this. And actually, if you're really serious about it, then we would also want to support you. So at the Weekend School now, we are just starting with it, but there is a social entrepreneur in Brussels and one in Berlin, and they're really serious about it. And we said, well, you should first do a research and see if it's really needed. And they both came back very enthusiastic and said, yeah, the parents are enthusiastic and the kids are enthusiastic, and it's really a place to do it here. So they are actually now in our training programs, and staff members of us go to Brussels and Berlin to help them set it up. And I really think that this is the future of the Weekend School. That's how I envision it. That we encourage new projects, that we also go to regular schools who want to have more of weekend school-like education in their school or adjacent to their school. We obviously also wanted to keep doing research, first of all to keep ourselves critical and to really monitor what we're doing, but also to show that it's not only stories, but that we can actually delineate impact factors. And the most important thing is teaching the teachers, so that would be the people who start a new project, but also our own staff. Actually, our own staff, when they see that other projects are starting internationally, some of them say, wow, I now really know how the Weekend School works. Maybe I can help set up it elsewhere. So we really think that it is something, a sparkle that has to be spread by people who have been who know the Weekend School. So, to conclude, obviously I learned a lot over the last 15 years. I can talk for hours about the Weekend School. But two things I think stick out for me is, one, that civil society has an enormous potential. And you really see that if you set up an infrastructure where civil society, individuals, corporations, can contribute to the future of children, they will do so, and especially if it's joyful and they both learn from it. That's really my experience in the Weekend School over the last 15 years. Everyone contributes. And secondly, my theory might sound very simple. Motivation plus real-life education leads to motivation for life. That really was my theory when I started out, and I'm really thrilled now to see it in practice, to see it through the very many different alumni stories who all come down to this, and we also can show it in research. And even more, it's not only that Weekend School alumni are motivated for their lives, they're also motivated to give back to society. So I really think that a project like this gets bigger than it was originally set out for. I hope I have infected you as well, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
I'm Professor Chaudhary once again from the National University of Singapore. I just would like to have some clarification in the sense, do these students of this Weekend School go to the regular school?
Yes, they do.
They do. So it is could it be a supplementary for what they learn?
Yes, it's in the weekend.
In the weekend.
And they don't perceive it as school. They say in school you have to do so many things you don't want to do, and well, and in school the learning is different, and this really is different. So they experience it more as an interesting activity than as a school.
And do you have any tie-up with the regular schools? Or is completely independent?
We have very good relations with the regular schools. First of all, we recruit the children in the regular schools, and schools are very supportive. Schools say the kind of things that you do, we would wish to do ourselves. We don't have time, we don't have money, we don't, but they're happy that we do it for the children.
Thank you.
I'm Vasily Bogin, Russia, secondary school director. And as I see and as I feel, there are a lot of interesting things which happen at your school. I feel it just looking at you and the way you are talking about it. I understand that it is interesting there. And the question is, when something interesting is happening, there is an effect of a crowd. When some of everybody is applauding, everybody is interested, but the results are not the same. Some people get results, and some students just are in the crowd. And if you understand what I mean, because some are developing and some are not developing if you do not make some special efforts. And how do you organize the individual results?
Yeah,
well, that is the question. And
question,
yes, and maybe if this question is not is a question for you. Can you measure the results, the special results, because they are not the results you do?
Two questions, but I try to answer them both. Okay. About, yeah, of course, children have different energies, different ways of learning, all kinds of differences, and really the advance of the weekend school is, the advance of the weekend school is that we can work in small groups. So we don't only have the staff members and the volunteer guest teachers, but for example, if there is a course in law, there will also be law students around. So we can really work in small groups, which allows the weekend school staff member, who is there each Sunday, to pay special attention to special kids. The weekend school staff member, unlike in a normal school, is not teaching. The guest teachers are teaching. So the staff member really is there to mediate, and it allows her or him time to really address different children's different needs. We can actually pay more attention to individual students than you can do in regular schools because there's so many volunteers involved. As to measuring the results, we do it in two ways. We do qualitative studies, so that's interviews and analyzing, and we also set up a quantitative studies where we measure first of all future perspectives, self-confidence, self-esteem, and connectedness, and actually the ability and the audacity to connect to other environments and understand other people. And we developing questionnaires for those quantitative studies, and we actually found results on future perspectives and self-esteem and connectedness of the weekend school group compared to children in their regular schools who are not going to the weekend school. So we do all kinds of studies to actually, the concept that we try to encourage are, there's not so much of an academic tradition in researching that, but we try to develop the questionnaires to be able to measure that. And qualitative and quantitative studies both help to achieve that.
Hello, my name is Esker Copeland. I'm a Youth and Education Specialist here at the Qatar Foundation. I appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
It resonates with me, particularly because of an earlier session I was in, what is real-world learning. And they talked about a lot of the same concepts that you talked about in your presentation. But what I thought it was that your presentation kind of gave a model, somewhat of a model that kind of showed the reality of some of the concepts that were discussed in the earlier session. But some of the points that were made in that session were, one, how do you connect the learning that occurs in this
Sorry, what?
How do you connect the learning that occurs in this supplementary approach that's occurring on the weekends to the learning that's happening in the classroom? Is that connection made explicitly, or are we relying on the students to realize when they talk to a lawyer or a nurse that, oh, wow, my science class does relate to this, or does that come out more explicitly? And the only other question I have is also from the earlier session, replication in resource-poor context. Do you think that your model could be replicated in resource-poor context in which a lot of us work?
Okay, thank you for both of your questions and for your compliments. I really think also myself that the practice put the flesh and blood on the bones of theory, so I really like both. As to the relation with regular education, we see a relation with motivation, and that is basically what we concentrated on in the first place, to see if being happy in the weekend school, having keeping your future perspective, thinking about your future, relating what the lawyer tells you to your own life, thinking, no, I thought I wanted to become a lawyer, but now I don't really like it. I'm looking in different directions. Those kind of things. And we find that doing good in the weekend school also means pursuing in the regular education. So it's actually a prevention against dropout, and you basically also see, we have a hierarchical school system in the Netherlands that children take different steps of the ladder, and some of them actually started on the lowest level and are now in university. We don't specifically encourage them to do that. We encourage them to get the best out of yourself and to find something that you like to do. Actually, I developed the weekend school for countries where basic education is sort of, in order, kids are in school, there are teachers, there are materials, and so on and so forth. And to counter the idea that children are only in school to obtain their diplomas. That's how the weekend school originated. And when I visited Africa, and I visited a lot of schools, and I saw so many places where basic things were lacking, and where really motivated teachers said, "Oh, well, you know what's going on." And to start a weekend school there, I'm not so sure. There is first a whole lot of other things to fix. Although I think that we should avoid under any circumstance that kids get the idea that you're in school to obtain diplomas and that is the only thing where school is good for. I think under all circumstances you should teach kids how to find a way into society, and it's really very helpful to use those passionate people in the civil society who are actually opening doors, and who are, why are passionate people so interesting? Because your fantasy gets going, and they actually also show concrete ways to go somewhere. And I think that idea, even in under-resourced places, is a good idea to have in the back of your mind. But to start a weekend school in a place where the normal school really is not up and running, I don't think that is the best places to start.
My name is Deng Yai. I come from South Sudan. I have 3 questions. One, is it not actually one of the important roles of a teacher to motivate learners? And if so, why do you only confine that to Saturday schools and not all schools? Naturally, you would expect that in every school, teachers will motivate learners. Second, the learners that come to a Saturday school are already motivated. Otherwise, they wouldn't come to a school on a Saturday. So is it not true that the critical factor here is that they are already motivated?
Okay. Shall I start?
And my last question, is it not possible to spread the virus of IMC to every school? Because I can see if we have all, highly motivated teachers, teaching a very good curriculum with good learning resources, it should be possible that every school becomes an IMC Saturday school. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. They're all very important, I think. Should the normal schools be more like the weekend school? Well, that's what we are finding out with teachers who come to us now and say, what can we learn from the weekend school? And the reality is, at least in my country and in Europe and also in the United States, which are the countries which I know most about, is that especially at the lowest end of society, the motivation is a huge problem in schools. And what parents and teachers try to do to tackle that problem is to motivate children for diplomas. And do your best in school, do your best in school, and then it doesn't work. In the United States, in the bigger cities, 50% of students drop out of high school before they obtain the diploma. And in Europe, we have similar figures. And this is all happening in underprivileged neighborhoods and in the most troubled areas. So this really is a challenge, especially in the United States and in Europe, to face and to see the achievement gap, both in Europe and in the United States, get wider and wider. So this is really a way to try to close the achievement gap. But I agree with you totally. What can we do in regular schools to make them more, to have this same motivation? And an anthropologist said to me, you can never transpose what you do in the weekend school to regular education. And I say, well, we're going to try. We're going to set it up adjacent to schools or however we're going to do it. But if school teachers are motivated and school leaders are motivated, I'm sure it's going to work. I cannot give you the outline now because we're finding it out, but that's what we're working on. As to the motivation, I started by saying all 10-year-olds are motivated to explore the world unless they're severely damaged. And what we see in the weekend school, that those who apply to come to the weekend school, you see actually that motivation at that age is very, I don't know the English word, but it's very, yeah, flexible. So for example, if my staff comes in the classroom and says, I'm so-and-so, I'm from the weekend school, I invite you to apply for the weekend school. If a teacher says, oh, this is so great, I wish I was in the weekend school when I was young, the whole class wants to go. And if a teacher is more like burnout and said, okay, you got 5 minutes to explain the weekend school, nobody wants to go. So it really depends on the environment the kids are in when they're 10 years old, how they react on that. So I won't say that the kids in the weekend school are the most motivated. Actually, we also researched that because in our research we included a waiting list group of students with the same motivation who did not go to the weekend school. And the effects of the weekend school apply to the weekend school students and not to the waiting list students. And we did not do that, put them on the waiting list for the research, but there is a real waiting list. So this motivation issue, it's really not that the kids in the weekend school are successful because they're more motivated. No, they're all motivated, the kids of that age group, and those in the weekend school are more likely to keep that motivation. That is the answer to your second question. And as to your third question, shouldn't we spread the weekend school virus to regular education? I totally agree with you. And I think in ideal schools, it works that way more and more. But the reality is that especially in the bigger cities in Europe and the United States, in the troubled areas, the virus had not arrived yet, and we try to help make that happen.
Yes, I'm Muhyiddin Talk from Jordan. You have practically touched on all aspects of assessment, what happens to those children, except achievement. Did you follow up how well they are doing in their regular schools?
Their achievement in the regular schools?
Yes, yes, math, science, languages, what?
Yeah, we're doing that, but we have a problem in that is a more research problem. We have a national test at age 12, but it is only one test, so we cannot measure that over time because it's one test. So that creates a research problem. And we look at their marks in school, but they are on different school levels, and we have a system from 1 to 10. And an 8 in one school means really something different in another school. So it's a headache because the schools are so different. And unlike America, we don't have this regular tests that tell you a lot. We only have one test, basically, one national test. So that creates a problem. And we can measure it a bit, of course, by the school levels that they have in the regular school. And there we basically see that weekend school alumni are more inclined to slowly step the ladder. That is kind of the hardest thing about achievement that we can tell. And the research way out here would be to test them actually, but I would not be the one to introduce more testing, no. So not even for the research, I think. So thank you very much for your attention.